Hello my friends, and welcome back to the series where I ask AI to draw Dwarf Fortress descriptions. I do apologize, a commenter left me a comment on the last video. Very complimentary. I censored just so they have privacy. They can claim, their comment in the comments this time if they'd like. They said, please make this distinction, so I will make this distinction. They said, please stop saying that you asked AI, because I guess that's not specific enough. Please say you used an AI service, or alternatively, if you have an AI system on your own machine, then you're running an AI system. So I used an AI service for this. That link will be in the description. I'm also going to include some other links. We're going to get into it. We got really creative this time, and I'm actually really excited to show everything that we found this time. And as we start this first one, let me just say I do love all my commenters. Seriously, I learned from it, and if I feature you in a video, it's because I appreciate what you told me. So, all right, moving straight in. I do have some notes for the AI on this. Didn't quite listen exactly, but it did a really good job. So I had never seen this creature before, actually, and when a swarm of them ran in from a cavern, I was really surprised and amazed. A really cool description. Let me just read it from the Dwarf Fortress, what Dwarf Fortress says about it. A small underground monster that crawls across the cavern wall with its four clawed hands. It has a large single eye which can shine with its own light. Otherwise, its stony skin blends in with the rock. It has no mouth and it is said to feed on evil alone. I was like, that is so cool. So I had to draw this one. Note for the AI immediately, it seemed to really struggle with not drawing a mouth. The first one doesn't depict all four legs. It's a little too cute, but that's the only one that has no mouth. This one on the top left, if I didn't say that clearly enough. This one on the top left, a little too cute, doesn't show all four legs exactly, so not ideal, but it did resist drawing a mouth, as opposed to top right, which I guess you could just say that's a feature of its face, some stitches or something. So that one is probably my favorite overall. Top right, because it has the four limbs, it has the big shining Sauron eye, and that's not technically a mouth, so it didn't disobey me on that. It just seems to be some kind of feature on its face. The ones on the bottom, while cool and probably pretty close, they do have mouths. So, and I think the best part of this creature, called a creeping eye, if you want to read more about it on the Wikia, link to the Wikia in the description. We're going to mostly use the Wikia for sources on giant sponges and sponge men, but I'm getting ahead of myself on that. So, but look up creeping eye in the Wikia. It is pretty cool. This next one. So this is where I disturbed a temple to the gods. I disturbed an ancient temple to the gods very, very close to the nether realm. On the level of the magma sea, it was almost being consumed by the magma sea. This guy came out. He was very mad that I had been messing around. The cool thing is, when we killed him, we got all this amazing, otherworldly gear in addition to the other otherworldly artifacts made of, strange metals. This was actually a huge haul of strange metal. As you can see, I'll just read my prompt as I describe it to the AI. A fantasy painting of a Guardian Bowman. The humanoid figure is made entirely of the metal nickel. It has two stubby horns on its head, which it didn't quite get. It gave him huge horns on all four, but anyway. And I specified to the AI, it should be posed as though muttering to itself about some dark subject. And the reason I said that, in the original description, it specifically says, it mutters to itself about death. And it was created by the human goddess Zith. It is of a part with death, fire, jewels, metals, minerals, trade and wealth. Let me get another take because there is actually a banned word in that. So let me try one more time. Or just bleep that. Never mind. We don't have to waste time. Just go back and bleep it. But this one turned out really cool. He's kind of picking his nose in the bottom right one. I'm not sure if that's ideal. He also doesn't have a bow in that one. But I like all of these. Probably the bottom left or the top right. Honestly, the top right is probably how I actually imagine this creature. But very cool. The only bad thing is that when he dropped all of his mystical, amazing gear, it's all too large for dwarves because it's human size. So that's sad. But all right, moving right along. Now, these are really cool. And if you've been playing Dwarf Fortress for any length of time, if you've managed to make it into caves, then you're familiar with elk birds, and they're really cool. They're not that dangerous. They can be dangerous because they have these big horns, as you see. It's as dangerous as an elk or, maybe a giant bird, but they're peaceful and you can usually hunt them pretty easily. They're happy little guys. I mean, imagine like deer that can fly and they fly around in the caves. I think they can fly. Actually, correct me if that's wrong. It may not have actually wings, and now I was looking at the AI and I was like, those things can fly because they have wings, but I'm looking at the description now. It only says a large creature found grazing on mushrooms deep underground. It walks on two legs and has the head of a bird with the antlers of a great elk. So actually, I should have marked this up more. Nowhere in the description does it say it has wings. That might be my fault. I have to look at my description. So I said a fantasy painting of a large elk bird. No, elk bird is how it's described in Dwarf Fortress. Now I'm arguing with myself. And then I described it verbatim. An elk bird is a large creature, walks on two legs with the head of a bird and the antlers of a great elk. His feathers are brown and his eyes are black. So the AI, both the AI and myself, we both assumed that it would also have wings, but it actually doesn't. And the image from Dwarf Dwarf Fortress, you know, the little one up there, shows it doesn't really have wings. It's more elk than bird, so it doesn't fly. So I take that back. One thing you'll see, I did circle, the immediate thing I noticed as an issue was I very distinctly said it walks on 2 legs, but I think it was nervous, or it's clearly trying to draw from a bird and an elk, and it's not making the best decisions because it's giving wings when we didn't ask for wings from the bird, and then from the elk, it's like, okay, you said 2 legs, and a bird has 2 legs, but I want to give it 4 legs because it has an elk, and then it gives me 3 legs in 2 of these examples. So that's a little strange. All right, moving right on. So this is about beauty standards. Don't worry, I'm not going to do the beard rant for a 3rd time in a row. But specifically, I chose this. So she is a dark priestess, and her description is especially ugly when given by Dwarf Fortress. Like, it's quite, I noticed her. I was like, whoa, I don't usually see these descriptors on dwarves. She is supposed to be kind of an unfortunate looking woman. So I guess I'll just read my prompt. And this is a pretty close, I'll say this is one of the more faithful ones where I was basically typing in what Dwarf Fortress described. I did a few things to try to make it see that she was a high priestess, which she is. I chose her because she was like she's a really important, influential spiritual leader in my current fortress, which I made specifically to get images of weird creatures for this video. So she's a dark priestess of a lot of bad things, but they specifically describe her as corpulent, which to me, you know, I would describe that as specifically a derogatory word where you're describing someone as so heavy with body fat that it is a negative thing. I would describe that as, I'm not saying that I find it negative in any case, but corpulent I would describe as a negative word. Likewise, sunken eyes, very wide set. Her lips are very thin. Her eyebrows are very sparse. So they're describing a lot of things which would be distinctive and show up, but would not fit basic beauty standards. And I think the AI, as soon as you say describe a woman, it's going to really emphasize, you see like the eyeshadow and the striking eyes, and they're going to make it pretty. And I marked it up. So it kind of ignores a lot of the negative things that I describe about her. I put in corpulent, and like 2 out of 4, they make her kind of pleasantly chubby. So they're really ignoring that. Thin lips is one that I've never ever gotten. And if you go back to all 3 of my videos, every single time I think there is a character described as thin lips, and it's like, nope, it's going to have luscious, beautiful lips, because why would we ever make, so it's not really, that's what I meant when I said we're going to talk about beauty standards, is like, when you ask it to draw a non-conventionally attractive person, a person who is not traditionally attractive, it will refuse, and it will give you a more model-esque person. So anyway, that's interesting. The bottom left one is like, really looks like a detailed CGI render for like a video game. So that's pretty cool. It did get the double braids. It made her look kind of like a dark priestess. A few, I'm even going to give it credit. It did maybe try to make the eyes sunken. Maybe she has some shadow on the eyes, but it otherwise kind of ignored me. Anyway, good, not great, and we're moving on. And here's one more great example of where the AI is listening, it's taking notes, it's doing a lot of things I asked for, but it's also completely ignoring me on other specific things I asked for, specifically here for legs. I said quadruped. The main distinction of this animal is that it is a quadruped that has 4 legs, and so it went, oh, I'm gonna do 16, 8, 6, and 12, and that should be good. So totally blanking me on that, even when quadruped was pretty close to the beginning of the, so here's why I think it happened. Because the next sentence says it has a pair of fan-like antenna and it squirms and fidgets. So I think that was enough to make it be like, I'm gonna draw a bug. I'm gonna draw a bug. I think there's some quadruped influence maybe in the bottom left. Looks like it might be a modified bug horse, and that is probably closest to what we're asking for. So just to read the original prompt, Bothon the Forgotten Beast is a huge quadruped composed of clear glass. It got the clear glass. That looks great. It has a pair of fan-like antenna and it squirms and fidgets. Beware its poisonous vapors. I modified it slightly. It got vapor. I'm realizing that only a few have fan-like antennas. The bottom left it made, well, no, it actually does have fan-like antennas on the bottom left, and then also gave it wings, which I didn't ask for. But yeah, no, I mean, not bad, but it skipped over quadruped, that's all. So now, if you're still with me, fans, we're going to talk into where I was getting content blocked constantly, which I think is actually really cool. So the second half, we're going to be talking about Dwarf Fortress descriptions that in the current month, in December 2023, break Bing's AI service, and it thinks I'm talking about something bad. I was really getting frustrated. I hit about 6 or 8 of these just trying to get descriptions of the following Dwarf Fortress characters, and I even cut a few because it's not even interesting. So that being said, the plump helmet man was one I did eventually manage to dial in and figure out. So the first time I typed in a fantasy painting of a small humanoid resembling a walking mushroom with arms and legs. Its exterior is purple. It lives far underground near water and soil. This is verbatim what Dwarf Fortress describes it. And you see the little drawing at the top, a plump helmet man. He's just like a little mushroom guy with arms and legs. Picture a mushroom with arms and legs and a face, and he's purple. Content warning, I gave them feedback. I reported it. I said, you're wrong. So actually, here's another funny thing is I reported like the first 3 or 4, and then it stopped giving me the option to report that it was mistagging these as inappropriate. So that being said, I did report this one. Second iteration, I got at least a purple little guy. And so in this one, I said a fantasy painting of a small humanoid resembling a walking talking violet webcam. That actually might be my fault. I just realized that. So I realized that the first time that it blocked me, oh, that's bad. That actually is my fault. Muscle memory. I typed webcam instead of webcap. So one letter difference. So it did actually give me a little purple webcam guy. This is my fault. I'm sorry. I take it back. This is actually my fault. So the issue with the first one was that I was describing like a purple mushroom man, and I can see how they might be like, oh, this is maybe something phallic or inappropriate. But so I said, no, I'm describing a mushroom. So I looked up, I said, what's a purple mushroom? And I found something called a violet webcap. And then I proceeded to typo it into this, to type it in correctly. So it actually did give me a purple webcam instead of a violet webcap. I might have to go back and see if it would have worked in that case. So, all right, mistakes were made on both sides for this one, but we finally got it right. What I managed to type in, and I don't like the top left, but I think that the other three are about what I would describe for a plump helmet man. I don't know. Now I really need to go back and see if I had typed that incorrectly, what would have happened. But so for my final last ditch prompt, I said a fantasy painting of a small elven character. His skin is purple and he wears a large mushroom-like hat on his bald head, which matches his skin. That was my last attempt at being like, just give me a fantasy character with a mushroom head. And it got me there. So that's roughly, I think the top right is probably my favorite. That's what I imagine. More or less. It doesn't have to have the huge ears and the cute baby face. I don't know. Maybe I said this was the final chapter, but now I feel like there's an unanswered question about what these really look like now that I botched that last one. So we'll see. Now here is a story of human creativity, human artistry triumphing over the AI. Because when we talk giant sponges, I gotta start at the beginning. There are sponge men in Dwarf Fortress, and there are also giant sponges. And giant sponges are actually considered the king of beasts. I'm gonna point you towards the wiki. The links are in the description one more time. The giant sponge is the king of the ocean. It'll kill sharks, it'll kill birds, it'll kill dwarves, it'll kill humans. The giant sponge was literally invincible until a patch was added that made them vulnerable to pulp damage. So if you smash them apart with like a big heavy thing, you might remove a giant sponge. That being said, the AI seemed to have trouble with it. I really want to draw your attention. So first, I'm going to give credit. Highlighted to the left is one of our community artists drawing a sponge man. And if you go to the wiki, you'll see some great SpongeBob jokes. Don't worry, we've thought of that. One thing I found really fascinating is when I went to the personality traits of this giant sponge. Let me read about the deep inner kingdom of this giant sponge. It truly treasures the company of others. It likes to present itself boldly, even if it would offend an average sense of modesty. It is somewhat quarrelsome. It is quite polite. It has a tendency to do it alone, without considering the advice of others. It does not easily fall in love, and rarely develops positive sentiments. It continues to go on like this. I've read half of this giant sponge's personality. But so to summarize this, I tried, and this is the only one that got through. I'll show you, it's kind of funny, the one that didn't get through. But so I got the red things you're seeing at the bottom is AI art when I asked for a fantasy painting of a mighty and massive sea sponge. Its exterior is red. It has complex thoughts and feelings and is basically invincible. You haven't seen yet, but in the description overview, which is quite simple, it mostly just describes it as red. So I put that in there here to try to get it. It gave me like 4 cities made of sponge. Like it seemed to be pulling like, you'll have to tell me why that is. It seems to be pulling from like 4 fantasy cities made of sponge. I didn't ask for that at all, but I guess I said it has complex thought. I said it has complex thoughts, and it almost did a face on like the 2 ones on the top. The one on the top left looks like Sinistar to me. If you remember Sinistar from way back in the day, I feel like that's some Sinistar vibe. Anyway, none of these are quite right. I was imagining like a deep sea sponge, just much bigger, maybe the size of a dwarf or larger, and just a sponge, but it I don't know. And then so after that, I was like, oh, I didn't even really get close. So let me just try exactly what Dwarf Fortress says. And the prompt was blocked for that. So that was also considered inappropriate. And all I typed exactly what it says. A huge immobile sponge. It is indefatigable and rarely sick. Its body is red. That's exactly what it says. That's all the information we have physically. I can see, I get it, but it's being too sensitive. Like, so I asked for a huge red sponge. I asked for a big purple mushroom man. It's being too sensitive. This AI is like Dr. Freud over here, where everything I described from Dwarf Fortress, it's like, ooh, could that be a dream about your self-conscious? Anyway, all right, so we're back. No, we're not back on track. I was gonna say we're back on track, but I'm still, this was one that I was reporting, and I don't know what's wrong with this one either. Leave it in the comments for any of these where I went wrong. I tried to mark it up and do theories, but I was getting blocked a lot, really just typing in Dwarf Fortress monster descriptions. Maybe, here's my theory. This is my controversial theory, and if you made it this far in the video, I can whisper it to you here. I think that it'll say content blocked if it doesn't know what to do. I think to like save face, maybe, and I would never accuse the powerful Microsoft Corporation or its affiliates of any chicanery, but I feel like sometimes if I give it something that's too confusing, it'll be like, I don't know what to do, and maybe one of these words could be a bad thing, so I'm just gonna pass on this whole, I don't know. I would never say that as an official accusation, but my mind wanders and I wonder that. But so anyway, this one I can see, because I did say it admits deadly dust. It was a fantasy painting of a large rove beetle made entirely of salt. It has a broad shell and emits deadly dust powder. This one was more my fault. I think deadly probably, it just said no, especially because I had already failed a bunch of prompts earlier, so it was like, this IP address is messing around. That could also be why, as an alternate theory to the hypothetical thing I just said about the AI just giving up if it's too confusing. It was maybe getting tired of my IP address after so many weird prompts. So I did eventually get this to work, and it worked great. I modified it to a fantasy painting of a large rove beetle. The creature is made entirely of fine white crystals. I wasn't sure if being made of salt was a problem somehow, so I made it even vaguer and more visually precise to the AI. And I said some dust surrounds it. It did fine. A very literal interpretation. I think the top left and the bottom right are both like stag beetles. I'm not sure if that counts as a rove beetle. I'm too tired to ask at this point. And my friends, if you made it this far, don't forget to leave this video just a little love. If you enjoyed it, a like, a comment, anything like that. Subscribe if you haven't. It all goes really far to helping my channel and helping me carve out time for these videos. This is the special treat now. This is the bonus image. And this is a prompt for a giant undead whale. This is a running joke that goes back to the birth of my channel. Big ups, as always, to Saltwater Aquifer, one of my favorite contributors. And yeah, so I lost the prompt on this because I ran it a while ago, just playing with it. I'm actually going to show the blown up versions of the top right and the top left, because I really like those. That feels like a zombie whale to me, and the scale feels right. That's what we're looking for. And we are going to get there someday. I put on my community post that if you can help me spawn units, I would like to do some marine biology on an undead whale. But to this day, as many times as I've embarked in haunted oceans, I cannot find one, and I want to see one up close like this. Maybe I should have already done the thalassophobia warning, but we're all grown-ups here. We're not going to have too many nightmares about this. Certainly not. All right, thank you, my friends. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you listening, and I will catch you in the next video. Hey, by the way, adventure mode, allegedly, according to the local, or to the official news sites, news sources, it seems that adventure mode should be coming early next year, and I will definitely be on top of that. I'm going to play lots of adventure mode when that's coming up. But in the meantime, cherish your fortresses.